Entrepreneur's Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. It's got the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, and how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneur's Enigma. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneur's Enigma podcast. I am, as always, your host, Seth. Today, I have Christina Nicholson of Media Mavens, of Christina All Day, of the Huff Post, of her own podcast, which is a really good podcast. I love it. Become a Media Maven, which is a really good one. She is a former, or also recovering journalist, TV journalist from Florida. She did that for 10 years. Then she opened up her Media Maven PR agency. And then she has created online courses for solopreneurs and small businesses who want to learn how to get coverage in the media. Kind of makes sense because she was in the media, so she knows how to get in touch with people like herself. So it makes perfect sense. She writes for the Huff Post, Thrive Global, Business Insider, Fast Company, Boss Babe, and guess what? She was even a TEDx speaker. And I love this. I love her title, the title of her talk, Fake News, It's Your Fault. I love it. We'll talk a little bit about that, but let's bring Christina in here. Hello, friend and fellow recovering journalist extraordinaire.
Hello, Seth. Thank you for having me. This
is so much fun. We've talked a little bit in the past about the journalism experience that we both experienced. Like, it's fun until it's not. And then it's like,
yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. It's really what it is. It's fun until it's not, and you burn out. It's long hours. I mean, I was a newspaper guy. You were a TV person, but still, same thing. Long hours. Only I could go in with scruff on if I had to work late. You couldn't go in with it. You were on TV. You had to be on, which is, I think, even more exhausting in my opinion.
Yeah,
it was tough.
It is.
And then
it's a lot.
But then you went into PR, which is a logical transition. It's either marketing or PR journalists escape to. I always joke that it was the dark side, but sometimes I wonder if journalism is really the dark side and marketing isn't, because it's a lot easier to do when you've done the journalism thing. And so you started Media Mavens, and then you're like busy like I am, and you have 3 kids and your hubby. So you have 4 kids sometimes.
Yes,
exactly. So I mean, I don't know how you do it all. I mean, you're a constant writer. You do your podcast. Oh, I forgot to mention your Podcast Clout site, which was a podcast database that made it easier for PR professionals to build podcast pitch lists, was acquired this year.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
So I'm doing less because that was acquired.
A little bit. No, I think you've added more. It seems. I don't know. You're busy like I am, which is keeps structure going. I mean, when you have 3 kids, I'm sure. I have 1 kid and a dog and a wife. And structure is key to get this stuff done. Otherwise, it's like, I don't know how you do 3 kids. And
my husband does most things. Like we have a sick boy at home today. He's out there taking care of him. Yeah. So my husband is a stay-at-home dad. That happened during COVID when he was working full-time. I had an infant and 2 kids in virtual school. I was like, honey, you got to quit your job or I'm going to go freaking crazy. So he's always wanted to be a stay-at-home dad. So he's been a stay-at-home dad for about 3 years now, living his best life. So I get a lot of family help there. And then on the agency side, so I have a PR agency, and then I also have the online courses that help business owners or solopreneurs who don't have an agency budget. And on the agency side, I have a team that does most of the implementing for clients and all of that.
You make sure everyone gets paid is what you do.
Yeah, exactly. I make sure everybody gets paid. I make sure that the clients are happy, the team is happy, and they're amazing. So that's pretty easy.
So it's good to have a at-home team and a at-work team. But you also are
but it wasn't always like that.
Oh, I'm sure it's never like that. In the first years getting out of journalism, figuring out what to do. Let's talk a little bit about that. Because as a journalist, you come up with your own, you do come up with your own stories from time to time.
Yeah.
But you are also handed by the editorial desk, hey, Christina, go cover this mule that does arithmetic. Or that was more me, but I literally knew I made it when I had to go cover a donkey that could do arithmetic.
Oh my gosh, that's a
It
good
was a
story.
cute story. I enjoyed it. I mean, I blamed it on you. I gave you this story, but like, no, I did that story, and it was a cute story. But it was like, all right, yeah, this is journalism. It's not glamorous. It's not Woodward and Bernstein every day.
Yeah, no, I mean, at first it was like you said, it's fun until it's not fun. Like at first it was
Mhm.
fun, but after 12 hours of standing in a hurricane
Oh, you've
or
done that?
hanging, yes,
I
I
never
have to
understood
tell
that.
people
It's
it's
windy. Just
windy
put
and rainy.
literally, you don't have to put a person out there. Just show the palm trees going sideways.
Yes,
It's good
but people
enough.
like to see the people out there. And remember, the people sending us out there are in their air-conditioned office with access to food and a bathroom. They're the
I
ones
know.
sending us
You have
out
to
there.
avoid flying stop signs.
Yeah, exactly. We're the ones that have to be out there doing because that's what people watch, right? Like whatever gets ratings. So unfortunately, crime stories get ratings. So we're outside crime
Ugh.
scenes all the time. And just after a few years, it got a little
Yeah, you did it for
old.
10.
Yeah, it got depressing. Then
For
you
you.
have kids, you get softer and all of that. So I needed something more flexible and something not as
Mhm.
depressing all day, every day. I did do some fun stories every once in a while, but most of the time, they weren't the human interest stuff that I enjoy.
Yeah, because you did local news, right?
Yep, local news. Yeah, I worked from markets like New York City, Beaumont, Texas, Fort Myers, Florida, and then the last one was the Miami Fort Lauderdale market down here.
Oh, so good weather when you have it, but not always the good weather because you get hurricanes. So I guess when you were in New York, you didn't have to do hurricanes as much, or were you there during Sandy? Did you have to be out there in
No, no,
Sandy?
no. I was there for a very short stint and it was in the winter, so it was cold.
It
And
was
then
cold,
down
but you didn't have
here,
hurricanes.
yeah, and then down here you have the hurricanes, and then in the summer it's just so freaking hot that
I
it
can't believe it.
sucks.
Yeah,
But it is what it is. That's the business. And I loved it. But then I had a family and my goals changed. So
it
that's when I went
happens.
to the dark side, as you call it. And a
The
lot
dark
of
side.
people make this move just because we know how to pitch the media. We're on the receiving end of it.
Oh
We know
God,
what
are we
works and
ever
what
one in the
doesn't.
media?
Yeah, we know what works and what doesn't because we're in those morning meetings and we know what is a good story and how to create a good story and how to put it
Mhm.
on air or in your case online or in print.
Yeah.
So I think it's a natural move to make when you are looking to do something different. And I worked at an agency for 6 months, but had a terrible boss, had the same problems I was trying to get away
Mhm.
from. Like I wanted that flexible schedule. I didn't want to commute 2
Yeah.
hours a day to sit in front of a computer when I could
Ugh.
save that time and do it from home. So after working at an agency for 6 months, I just started my own. And I
Well, good for
started
you.
as a professional freelancer and I just
Yeah.
started getting clients on LinkedIn or Upwork. And then after a couple of years and hiring a business coach, I knew better. So I did better. And then slowly started building a team. And
Cool.
I
How big is your
would,
team now?
right now, it is 5 people.
That's
Half,
manageable.
yeah, half of them are former journalists, and then
Oh,
the other
wow.
half come from publicity. Or
Yes.
one actually comes from a book publisher. She did PR for them. So I
Oh, you
have
have
a
good
great
variety.
team. Yeah, I have a great variety because when
Yeah.
we get inbound clients, it's like, okay, this one is a lifestyle product sold online. So that goes to the e-commerce publicist. If we get a local
Yeah.
hotel or restaurant, then that one goes to the hospitality publicist.
We're gonna take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show. You got
Content
this
and
down you got
offers.
this down to a system. I love it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And that's why we have, these specific publicists in place. Everyone has their niche, everyone has their strengths, and
Mhm.
they're all amazing. They're very self-sufficient. They don't need to be
Yeah.
babysat. I that's something I hate in corporate America. I
Oh
feel like
god,
that's
the
why a lot of
worst.
people want you to go into the office. They want to babysit you. Like, listen, these are the goals. If you hit them, you do a
Great.
good job, you get paid. Like, that's the way it is. I'm not going to babysit you. You don't want to be babysat. You want a flexible schedule. You want to just do your job and get paid. Like, it's
Get
not
your
rocket
stuff
science.
done. Yeah, just get your
Yeah, don't
stuff
make it
done,
complicated.
and if you get your stuff done by 3, go hang out with your kids. Like, that's what I do with my people. I say literally, like, "Just get this stuff done." I mean, if you wanna work at night to get it
Yeah, I
done,
don't
fine,
care where you work, when you work, what you wear when you work. Like, it's irrelevant. Are you hitting the goals? Yes. Good enough for me.
and that makes you a good boss because you're flexible. And I think that people are crave the flexibility. I think with everyone trying to get back into the office, they're realizing there's more than just coming into the office and the commute. So that's really good. So you also have ChristinaAllDay.com. So what's that?
Yeah,
That's like your
this is
personal
like a
brand.
hobby.
a hobby.
Yeah,
It keeps
this
you
is
pretty
just like a
busy.
fun thing for me. I
Yeah.
can monetize it a little bit, but it's more
Yeah.
so like a fun thing for me. Like for example, this weekend we're gonna go to a 5-star resort on the beach here in Miami. We're gonna
Ooh.
create content. I'm gonna share it on social media. I'm gonna write a blog post about it. It's just a fun thing. I
Yeah.
would love to grow it. I would love to get better at SEO on that specific
Yeah.
website so I can monetize it with ads. But other things, it's always been on the
Two or
back
three
burner. It's
kids.
been on the back burner for years. I don't treat it as a priority. And so that's
Yeah.
why it's still like the side hustle hobby.
But it's good that everyone has to have a side hustle, even if it's, some people have their entrepreneurial journey as their side hustle and they work in corporate. Others are entrepreneurs and then they have a side hustle still because you can't be, it's like, what is that thing? You can't just have just one, like lollipop or something like that. You can't just have just one. You have to have more.
Yeah.
There's a candy out there that you can't just have one. And it's like
Yeah.
when you're an entrepreneur, you're always kind of going, you're always kind of, oh, that's a good idea. I'm gonna go try to do that too, kind of thing. So as an
Yeah,
entrepreneur,
that's a
yeah,
problem, I think, is like,
it
and I
is a
don't know if you have
problem.
a problem, Seth, but it's like like I have so many tabs open right now on my laptop, and it's like, oh, I could learn this, but then could I implement that? Should I implement that? And it's like there's so much to do. I
Yeah,
really need to like get focused and have tunnel vision on like one thing at a time
it's so
because
tough.
there's so many amazing people sharing amazing content, and I just want to learn from them and implement what they're doing. But it's like I'm one person. There's only so many hours in the day.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So what is the best thing about, because you've done a little bit of corporate PR, you've done the news business, which is its own beast, and now you're out on your own with the team and team at home, team at work. What's the best thing about being an entrepreneur?
Oh, it's like the days when my husband and I can go out to lunch in the middle of the afternoon on a
Isn't that
weekday,
wonderful?
and it's no big deal. I don't have to worry about being back at a certain time or right now, yesterday and today, like the little guy was sick. So I laid in bed with him until 11 a.m. Like I would be scolded by a boss if, I did such a thing. So
Yeah,
the best part is just being able to do these things. And the funny thing is that it's like I still have an amazing work ethic. I can
yeah.
still do these things and get things done and have an amazing
Mm,
work ethic.
mm,
And I feel like the way people look at corporate America, it's just so antiquated and they pay attention to things that don't
yes.
even really matter in the short term or long
Mhm.
term. So I
KPIs
think
that,
just not dealing
yeah.
with that BS is lovely.
That's fantastic. So what keeps you up at night besides the kid being sick? I mean, business-wise, what keeps you up at night?
Business wise, I would say when there's ever any hurdle with a client or with a team
Yeah,
member.
yeah,
I'm not a perfectionist, but when it comes to business, I am a people pleaser. And I
yeah.
always want the team and the clients to be happy. And a lot of what we do in public relations is out of our control. So if
Mhm.
we have a client that wants coverage on a specific story, we'll do our best and set expectations, but
Yeah.
sometimes the story isn't newsworthy, or sometimes the time of year isn't a good time of year to pitch it,
Yeah,
or
the newsroom's just
sometimes,
busy.
yeah, sometimes, I mean, there's just a lot that goes into it, and a lot is out of our control. And no matter how many times, I can educate and explain this to the client, that's when things get stressful for me.
Yeah.
And I think another thing, like this happened during COVID when we had a couple restaurant clients who were struggling. I
Oh,
had to, tell some publicists, like, look, we're probably going to lose these restaurant clients in a few months. And it's funny, like right after COVID, we actually got them a whole bunch of coverage because
they're
restaurants were doing
back! Yeah.
creative things with pickup, and people were supporting the restaurants and the servers in however ways they could. And that made a lot of coverage. But a few months after that, there was nothing more to tell. And the
Yeah.
restaurants, they needed to save money. And unfortunately, the first thing a lot of businesses cut when it should be the last thing is the thing that gets them attention
It's
to get
PR and
more leads to
marketing.
do more business. But unfortunately, the first thing that they cut is PR. So, I had
Yeah.
to tell a couple of team members, like, look, we're going to lose this client. And I don't want to say fortunately, but I wasn't the only one that was going through that. I feel like it's an industry thing when a lot of people in PR or marketing are losing clients or it's
Yeah.
slow. It's just very common amongst the industry. It's not just one or two.
It
It's just a
isn't.
sign of the times sometimes. But I would say those two things. It's really just like ensuring that the client and the team are happy.
I love it. I love it. And so what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time?
Like physically?
Or you can go as deep
Mentally.
as you want on this.
Okay. Physically, your freaking phone, not to
Oh,
sound like a total
absolutely.
millennial, but like everything is on it.
I can run everything but
Like,
this podcast on it. I can even run this podcast on it, which is
right?
ironic. Yeah, it's crazy.
Physically, you need a phone. I always like to have a book too, whatever current book I'm reading. I like to have that.
Something about a physical book too. It's kind
I
of nice.
like a physical book. I do have a Kindle, but I only use it when I travel.
Oh,
I
because
just
easier to, yeah, it's
prefer
later.
I just prefer a physical book. I don't know. And then I'll do audiobooks, but
Yeah.
I've listened to audiobooks a lot less since I started my own business just because I'm not in the car as much.
Yeah, you don't have to
So,
commute.
yeah, and right now it's very warm outside in South Florida, so I'm not
Oh,
walking outside. So, I'm not listening to as many audiobooks. So, physically, I would say you carry that.
yeah.
Mentally or internally,
Yeah.
I would say you always need to carry kindness, especially
Yes.
now when there's so many crazy ass people out there saying crazy things and just being ridiculous. Don't be a Karen, carry
Yeah.
kindness.
I feel bad
And
for Karens that are not Karens. I feel bad
I
that we
know
call up that
it's a
name. I feel
tough
so bad.
name to have right now. It's a
That
tough
and
name.
Chad.
So I would
Chad?
say
Yeah.
kindness and confidence.
Oh, kind of. Those are two really good ones.
Yeah.
Very needed right now. And so, where's your big watering hole online? Because you are a social media person. Like you're on Instagram, but what's your favorite like online space, if there is one?
Well,
Because how you don't
it's
have to have
funny.
one.
No, it's funny you ask because Instagram, I don't do any business there. And not too long ago, I created a Media Maven Instagram because I wanted to keep personal and business separate on
Yeah.
Instagram because I wanted to keep Instagram fun. I don't want to be one of those business owners that stresses
Mhm.
about the algorithm and everything else. Like I wanted to keep it fun. So I
Yeah.
created a Media Maven Instagram, but I'm not like posting to it very much.
No,
So
I have so many Instagram accounts. I mean, honestly, Instagram tells me about Instagram accounts I set up a while ago that I forgot about. It's like, hey,
yeah.
you should follow Seth. I'm like, well, that is me. I didn't know I had that account.
I don't need to follow him. I know what's going on.
Yeah.
So Instagram and TikTok are fun for me. That's where like the Christina all day lifestyle stuff comes out.
Yeah.
And then professionally, I would say LinkedIn is probably the biggest one for
Yeah.
me just because that's where I get most of my business leads would
Oh,
be
that's
LinkedIn.
awesome.
I'm not amazing at it. Like I'm not
Mm.
like, one of these big thought leaders on LinkedIn, but I like LinkedIn. Twitter's great just because as you
Or
know, that's like
X
the
or
news
whatever. Yeah.
platform. That's like quick, short, get it all you need, like if I
Yeah.
fall asleep and I need to know who won the Miami Heat game, I just go to Twitter and I search Miami
Yeah.
Heat and I find it.
That's
So
great.
I like those for business. And then Facebook is just there because it just needs to be there because it was the first one.
Stay in touch with mom, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Because that's all the place they're at. So, well,
Hmm.
Christina, thank you so much for being on. This is so much fun. I'm glad we got to get together on the podcast. And make sure you check out her podcast, which
Yeah,
is
come on over.
Becoming a
Become a
Media
Media Maven.
Maven. It's so good. I mean, there's some solo episodes, some pontification episodes, and she has people on every once in a while, which is nice. So
Yeah.
it's a
And
great
I'm an
podcast. I enjoy it.
overshare. Yeah, you will
Uh
you will hear on the podcast I overshare a lot.
oh, oh, oh. Well, this has been great, Christina. Thank you for taking the time out. I'm going to let you go take care of your sick little baby boy.
My
Oh,
honey.
poor
Thank
kiddo.
you, Seth.
All right, and we'll see everyone next. That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please review us in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps other podcast listeners find our show. If you're looking for other podcasts in the marketing space, look no further than the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode. This podcast is one of the many great shows on the MPN Marketing Podcast Network.